Hi, are you an anxiously attached person? If so, you're gonna wanna watch this video because in this video, I'm teaching you how to break free from your dismissive avoidant ex. This is something that an anxious attacher really struggles with. There's a reason, and a lot of the times it's actually because of a trauma bond that has been created inside of that contract or inside of that relationship. So stay tuned to the end for all the tips and tricks on how to break free, reclaim your sense of self and your sense of agency, and be able to move forward from this experience with the lessons and with the love, but leaving the pain behind. My name is Sarah. I am a mindset mastery coach, transformational hypnotherapist, and attachment style specialist. So thank you guys. Let's dive into this topic. So you knew that this person was emotionally unavailable, but maybe, I'm gonna say maybe, because a lot of the times a dismissive avoidant partner will appear secure in the beginning stages of the relationship. It's about at the 4 to 6 month mark, sometimes even up to like 8 months, but it's usually that 4 to 6 month sort of magical period where the illusion starts to shatter for the dismissive avoidant and things start to get really real, where they really struggle with the intimacy and the closeness and delivering that and being able to sustain that. So that's where you start to see that maybe they're not as secure as they pretended to be, not even pretended to be, but as they appeared in the beginning. A lot of the times they show up very secure when you first meet them. They show up reliable, they show up they call when they say they're going to. They're very clear on their feelings for you. And for an anxiously attached person, this can feel like a miracle. This can feel like the love that you've been waiting for your entire life, like the love that you've heard about since you were a little boy or little girl. And so it starts to create a trauma bond of sorts inside of this relationship and inside of both of your nervous systems. So either you knew that they were emotionally unavailable, consciously, or maybe subconsciously your nervous system detected that, because subconsciously we're actually seeking out the patterns so that we can verify or validate the limiting beliefs that we hold. So you know they made you feel like you were too much or not enough. So at this stage, if you're broken up or you're in sort of the process of being broken up with or leaving a dismissive avoidant partner, you know that at some place, especially if you're anxiously attached, you felt like you were too much or not enough. Likely too much, because that's typically what an anxious attacher will feel. And yet you can't stop thinking about this person. So you might even be ruminating. A lot of clients that come to me, they're stuck in rumination cycles of pain, cycles of really self-inflicted abuse, where you just can't seem to break free from what are they doing? What are they thinking? What could I have done differently? What if I had done this? What if I had tried that? Did we try everything? Did I give it my all? Why wasn't I enough? And so on. And all of these questions that will circulate throughout your mind. And you really beat yourself up, guys. So you may check your phone or stalk their social media or ask family and friends about them, or just simply not be able to really get through your day in a healthy, constructive way. This isn't just heartbreak though. This is a form of addiction, and that's why it's such a struggle to let go. This isn't as simple as just move on, as people might have told you. You can't just move on when you're in this type of a dynamic. So today I'm going to show you why dismissive avoidant partners create this emotional addiction. It stems from chaos. It's born out of chaos and confusion. But more importantly, how you can start breaking free, because that's my ultimate goal, is for you to break free, for you to regain your clarity, your composure, your sense of self-agency, and be able to move forward and find secure, healthy love. So let's talk about the neurological roots of obsessing and where this comes from, because I think this is going to clarify a lot for you. So there's a sense of intermittent reinforcement, like there's just enough warmth to keep you hooked, but not really enough to feel safe. And that you get like these dopamine spikes when they pull away, but also when they come close. It's like go away, come close, because when in your childhood as an anxiously attached person, you had that push-pull dynamic with one of your parental figures. Sometimes they were close, sometimes they weren't, sometimes they were available, sometimes they weren't, sometimes you could count on them, sometimes you couldn't. And so your brain remembers this and has memorized this and thinks that this is actually love. Your brain sees their withdrawal as a problem to solve, and this creates the obsessive loop. So they're withdrawing. How can I solve this? How can I change this? How can I make this different? So then you start this obsessive loop, and it just goes on and on and on. And there's no real answer or closure because you can't fix the dismissive avoidant, right? Your brain becomes addicted to the high of finally being seen. You crave that one moment where they see you, where you connect with them, where your eyes meet, where you may have a deep conversation, and are the rare nights where they're actually emotionally available to you. And that moment feels like a breath of fresh air and a sigh of relief. And that relief is addictive when you've been anxious for so long, so you hold on to it for dear life. So why does it feel so much like love when it actually might be attachment? I'm gonna help you get some clarity here. So a lot of times we confuse activation with connection. Our nervous system or attachment system gets activated and it takes us back to childhood, and suddenly we're trying to replay our childhood but with a different outcome with one of our parents. But attachment in general feels a lot like love, and it can be hard to discern the difference between the two. The highs with a dismissive avoidant partner can be so high that they overshadow those lows. And so what you'll do, especially in the midst of a breakup, is you'll look back and remember the highs and kind of forget the lows. So you're gonna remember the good times. You're gonna remember when they came through for you. You're gonna remember those deep conversations, those laughs, those shared secrets, inside jokes, that sort of thing. And it can be hard, it can kind of be muddled with the lows, because the lows are mixed in there, but your brain is basically wired to remember the good times, especially when you're in a state of grief. And especially if you're anxiously attached, their distance mirrors your early attachment wounding from childhood. Remember, if you're anxiously attached, you had intermittent reinforcement, whereas your main primary caretaker was sometimes there emotionally, sometimes available emotionally, and sometimes not. So they would often come close and then pull back. And that can create so much pain inside, and your attachment system thinks that that's love. It's like if it feels like love, but often it can be a trauma bond, and it's your nervous system recreating that familiar pattern from childhood. We recreate what we know because that feels familiar and that feels like home, and actually something secure, like secure love, secure attachment, would feel foreign to us and maybe even scary. So you kind of think, if I just try harder, I'll be chosen. Or if I just do this differently or forsake my own happiness, then I'll be chosen, then I'll be happy. But that's not actually what's going to happen here. Let's talk about some of the signs that you're caught in an addiction or an addictive cycle. You replay arguments trying to solve them. And again, like, oh, if I had done this differently, if I had said this differently, if I had known them better, if I had understood them better, if I had been more understanding, that sort of thing, then you think maybe if something had gone differently, just one little thing, that then we could have a different outcome and that I wouldn't be in this situation in a breakup. You'll rationalize their behavior constantly. Like, you'll rationalize away their lack of depth. You'll rationalize away their ability to dismiss you, their ability to avoid. And guys, that dismissiveness can really be really subtle. It can just be like, they look down at their phone when you're having a conversation, or it can be like them walking ahead of you when you ask them to walk with you, them refusing to hold your hand when they know that's something really important to you. It can look like them trailing off mid-sentence and you kind of grasping for that, like, what were you going to say? And they're like, oh, nothing, never mind. And it's that bid for connection that gets ignored, or sort of that gets tossed out the window. That can be really painful for an anxiously attached person. You'll feel anxious when they're gone and then instantly relieved as soon as you hear from them. So you might get like a crumb of attention or affection or connection, and you'll just kind of like chew on that for several weeks or months at a time. Even if they're pulling away, you'll come back to that little crumb that you're receiving of their time, their energy, their resources, their love, their intimacy, whatever, and you'll hold on to that for dear life. And you'll mistake their return for emotional progress. Like, well, if they came back, that means they're doing the work. But again, that's not necessarily the case. In fact, that's probably not the case, because real work, real emotional work, takes a very long time to process. And again, with dismissive avoidant partners, like I've said in many, many of my videos, they are in the state where they are going to have to process not only their childhood, but all the pain that they've caused other people. So their own pain, all the pain they've inflicted on other people, the ends of marriages or breakups. They'll have to process all of those things, the ends of friendships, everything that's happened to them that's been painful, that they've sort of tossed aside or dismissed in the name of peace. You're not weak for wanting this connection, and you're not wounded either. It's your mind trying to finish a story where you finally win this time, where you finally get their attention. You win their love, but that's not healing, that's captivity, right? So you have to remember that you want somebody that wants to be all in with you. And if they don't want to be all in with you, then you have to ask yourself, why am I craving this person's attention and affection so much? All right, here comes the good part, guys, the healing. How do you actually break free from this addictive cycle with a dismissive avoidant partner? Name the pattern, not just the person. If you can, this is a way to sort of depersonalize, and it sounds cruel, but it's really not. It's a way for you to heal. Name the pattern that's happening, not the person. You don't have to criminalize or villainize the person, right? They're dealing with an avoidant attachment system. They probably don't even know it. And if you were to point it out to them, they might, fight back. They might feel ridiculed, belittled, criticized, attacked, etc. So oftentimes they have to figure this out on their own without your help. And with an anxiously attached person or even a fearful avoidant person, you're going to want to show them. You're going to want to send them videos and links, or my channel or someone else's channel, or read this or do this, or let's go to couples therapy. And unfortunately, what that does is just make them feel more and more attacked and makes them withdraw more and more. Remember, they're not the magic. Your nervous system is activated by the inconsistency. So we think it's them, like it's like a drug, like we're addicted to their love, we're addicted to the attention, the crumbs that we get. But it's not actually their love that's magic. It's our nervous system, it's our attachment system being pinged saying, oh my gosh, this chaos, this withdrawing of love, they're constantly moving the marker, and I'm constantly having to strive more, do more, be better, etc. to win their love. That's your nervous system, guys. And that's the inconsistency and chaos that your nervous system internalizes as love. The second step is starve the addiction. No contact or minimal contact. I have a video on no contact. I'll put the link below. This is not for them. This is not to win them back. Okay. This is for you to move forward. This is for you to break the cycle. Once you can break the cycle and step outside of the pattern, outside of the cycle, outside of the chaos, outside of the longing, outside of the inconsistency and the breadcrumbing, you'll see that you were actually always the prize. The less you check, the less you chase, the less you try to fix, the more the cycle breaks. You're giving them space, which is love, and you're giving yourself space, which is self-love. Step 3, rewire safety, not intensity. Let me say that again, rewire through safety, not intensity. We want safety, not intensity, but we need to know the difference. We need to be able to discern through our attachment wounding what safety really is. Because right now your nervous system thinks safety is this person or is this pattern, but it's actually the opposite. That's unsafe. Build relationships, all kinds, romantic, platonic, family relationships, internal relationships with self that feel safe and reliable, steady and consistent. Safe and reliable, steady and consistent. Step number 4, grieve the fantasy. This is the most important one. I feel like grieve the fantasy, not the reality. Grieve the fantasy of what you thought or what you saw in the beginning or what you saw glimpses of. They have the ability, guys, the potential, the potentiality of being that person that you saw or that you saw glimpses of throughout the relationship. But if they're not acting on that regularly, then that needs to be yellow flagged, red flagged, okay? You need to grieve who they actually, like the person that you actually thought they were, not the person that they are. So much of what you missed wasn't them. It was the hope of what they could become with your love, with your encouragement, with your ability to, let's go to couples therapy. Let's fix this. Oh, you had a bad childhood. Let me fix this. Let me help you. I see the wounding. I see the patterns. They don't want that. People don't want to be fixed. They need to be able to fix themselves. They don't want to be fixed. They don't want you to fix them. And this is what we need to understand. You don't need to fix all the wounded birds. You're not Florence Nightingale. You need to understand that what you need to do is fix yourself. And I'll tell you something, guys, wake up call. If you're pointing the finger and you're criticizing or attacking your partner, oh, it's all their fault, it's their dismissive avoidance, you need to take a long look in the mirror and find out what your attachment style is, your attachment wounding, do some inner child work, do some internal family system work, and understand that you played a role and you played a part in that relationship, and in that relationship actually not working out. I'm not going to say failing, because I don't think it's a failure, because you learned. But you need to look at yourself, guys. If you're anxiously attached, you need to look at your codependency and your own emotional unavailability. And if you're a fearful avoidant, you need to look at your emotional unavailability. You need to look at your wounding around love. You need to look at this fear that you have around love, this desire for it and fear for it at the same time. You need to fix your fear of betrayal, right? So we all have wounds to fix and to look at and to heal. All right, this is a final truth that I'm going to share with you guys in this video that you really need to hear. If someone makes you constantly feel anxious, unseen, or like you're having to chase love or be somebody different or fit into a box or somehow make yourself small, that's not passion, that's pain, okay? We often mistake those things. Because if in childhood, if you had to earn somebody's love, you're gonna think you have to earn the love of your partner. You're not hard to love. You're not too much. It's not that you're not enough. You're just right for the right person. But you need to find somebody who can meet you at the level that you're at. You were trying to find safety with someone who doesn't even know how to feel safe within themselves, okay? They were trained to run from intimacy and closeness. They were trained in childhood, unfortunately, at a very young age to to basically betray themselves, like self-abandonment, run from those feelings of depth and intensity, run from those tough conversations. So this is about you understanding what you deserve and what you truly want and not settling for anything less and not shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's idea of what you should be. So breaking the addiction isn't about hating them. It's not about vilifying them. It's about finally choosing yourself. This is so incredibly important. So if this video has resonated, please drop a like, comment, share this video, share my channel with anyone you think might benefit, and let me know in the comments below how it's affected you. And if this helped you see your situation more clearly, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you're experiencing and how this has helped given you clarity and a deeper understanding of this cycle. Take care, guys.